For those of us who care about people and the planet, navigating our personal finances in the midst of late-stage capitalism can leave us feeling conflicted and uncertain. You don't want your efforts to earn and grow your money to contribute to destroying the very future you're preparing for, but you also don't want to die broke in a gutter, right? This is a conundrum I've been noodling over for about 20 years. In that time, one of the best tools I've encountered to assist me in charting a course in this terrain might surprise you. That is, if you've ever heard of it. And for those of you who have heard of it, you've likely encountered little to nothing about how you can apply it to help you manage your finances and design a life of financial resilience. The beauty and power of this tool is that it shows you how to build true wealth into your life and community in ways that simultaneously contribute to bringing about that brighter future that you know is possible, while also better preparing you to thrive despite the economic, political, and climate challenges that await us in the interim. Hi, I'm Laura, a green living and money coach. Welcome, or welcome back to my channel. Here I talk all about the sustainable money and lifestyle choices you can make to navigate capitalism and climate change with more of your dignity, sanity, and money intact. Well, by now you're likely wondering what this amazing tool is. Well, it's permaculture. And for anyone unfamiliar with it, it's a nature-inspired design system that can be applied to all aspects of our lives. While most people may think that nature wouldn't have much, if anything, to teach us about prosperity, ecosystems are continually growing in diversity and abundance over time, so there's definitely something to be said for that model. Even those of you who already know about permaculture may still find yourselves scratching your heads because permaculture discussions mostly focus on how to apply permaculture to our landscapes to do things like grow an abundant food forest, raise backyard chickens, or maybe build a straw bale house. So let me show you how we can all, whether you've heard of permaculture before or not, use the resources in the permaculture toolkit to design that life of financial resilience and true wealth in alignment with those permaculture ethics of earth care, people care, and fair share. And that third ethic is all about economics, livelihood, business, income, finance, and production. Just so you know, if you find these concepts compelling and would like to delve deeper into them, you can check out my Permaculture and Money ebook linked in the description below, because there's a lot more to this than I'll be able to cover in this video. First and foremost is the all too often overlooked permaculture asset classes analysis initially outlined by permaculture co-originator Bill Mollison. He believed understanding these asset classes was a really important, if not the most important part of permaculture. So if we want to learn how to design resilient and financially stable lives and communities, it's imperative that we grasp these different asset classes and make decisions accordingly. Essentially, the asset classes he outlined fall into two broad categories, one being degenerative assets and the other being regenerative assets. Similarly to conventional personal finance thinking, Mollison viewed degenerative assets as those things that break down or become obsolete, often very quickly. These are things like cheap, trendy clothes that you'll only wear 1 or 2 seasons, or the latest water bottle. They make us poor because we have to keep spending money to replace them. The more degenerative assets we buy, the poorer we become. Meanwhile, more pollution is generated producing all those new replacements, and all those broken down assets pile up in our landfills. Not only do these assets physically degenerate, they also degenerate our planet and our finances, keeping us trapped on the earn, spend, and repeat hamster wheel of capitalism. Then, at the opposite end of the spectrum, we have regenerative assets. Each time we invest in those, we're investing in our own financial security and a better world. Regenerative assets run the gamut from more durable assets that are made to last, such as high-quality clothing, tools, or equipment, to generative assets like useful skills you could use to earn your income, like beekeeping, sewing, passive solar construction, or landscaping with native plants. Then there are procreative assets, and yes, these are literally assets that procreate. However, as my Growing Free co-author Mike Hogue notes, they must also actually be valuable as natural capital and follow a law of diminishing returns. Examples include rare medicinal herbs, vermicomposting worms, as well as building and craft material plants like bamboo or willow. Moving on from those lesser known permaculture asset classes, we have the much better known permaculture principles. Those are the 12 permaculture principles outlined by the other permaculture co-originator, David Holmgren. These universal principles are applicable across a wide range of situations. They can be applied to pretty much anything from designing a garden to designing an organization, or in this case, to designing a financially resilient and climate resilient life. There's such a wonderful collection of regenerative wisdom. So let's look at a few of these 12 permaculture principles to get a sense of how they do this. The most obvious one is likely obtain a yield. We often hear this idea discussed in the conventional personal finance world in terms of how much of a financial yield or return stocks or bonds offer. Many permaculturalists, on the other hand, likely think about this in terms of how much food their garden can produce. When it comes to permaculture and money, you can obtain a yield by earning money through regenerative right livelihood and investing in those regenerative assets that continue to grow your wealth in regenerative ways. You want to be earning and saving more money than you spend and making smart investments to create that yield or surplus. Another one of those permaculture principles is to catch and store energy. This design principle is about capturing energy and making hay while the sun shines. That might look like preserving the fruits and vegetables we harvested from our gardens in the summer, catching the sun's solar energy through panels and storing it in batteries, or capturing the energy of our food scraps and composting them so we can store that energy as fertile soil. That's also what we're doing when we catch some of that financial capital through our job or livelihoods and store it in some of those regenerative investments that are going to both earn more income for us and have a positive impact on people and planet. It's also worth bearing in mind here permaculture's lesser known fourth ethic, the ethic of transition, which acknowledges that we are working to evolve a new way of living and being while embedded in an existing reality that is very much out of alignment with this vision. In this case, that could involve storing and growing the energy of your money by investing it in some of the environmentally and socially conscious financial instruments that are percolating off Wall Street. For example, investing money in the Genesis Fund, which is operated by a CDFI, a community development financial institution, and puts investors' money to work in local development projects that foster vibrant, resilient, and equitable communities. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, and that's not financial advice. This is just something based on my lived experience of my own journey of trying to find more socially conscious investments that I can make with my money outside of the stock market. The third and final permaculture principle I want to draw your attention to today is use edges and value the marginal. This principle recognizes that the interface between things is where the most interesting events take place. Even though they're at the margins, these are often the most valuable, diverse, and productive elements in the system. We see this playing out under capitalism in the way society prioritizes financial capital above all else, losing sight of the fact that what truly lends meaning and fulfillment to people's lives after a certain basic level of financial security is met are the other forms of capital that are considered marginal and usually aren't viewed as forms of wealth. And as Bill Mollison noted, the wealth or value created by money stems from exchanging it for one of these other forms of capital. And that leads me to the final teaching of permaculture I want to touch on today. To the extent that finance and economics are covered in permaculture texts and courses, one of the concepts most often discussed is that of the 8 forms of capital, of which only one is financial capital. Other forms of capital include living capital or natural capital. Think about things like the parks in your community, clean air, or even some of those regenerative assets we talked about, like your garden. There's also material capital, which are the physical and tangible things in our world, like the phone or other device you're using to watch this video, as well as your shoes or a Picasso painting. But I made a whole separate video on this topic that you'll want to watch later, because this is a vital part of what permaculture has to offer to help us design lives of financial stability in the face of capitalism and rapid climate change. For now, I just want to underscore here that our heavy reliance on money to meet our needs leaves us fragile, vulnerable, and trapped in a scarcity mindset. Our resilience and access to true wealth stems from cultivating the multiple forms of capital in our lives. I do want to note that I'm not suggesting you tap the wisdom of permaculture to grow yourself into a multimillionaire. Mollison, after all, described unused wealth, or wealth that does not lead to the proliferation of life, as pollution of the same nature as any unused resource. Manure and money, he noted, have a lot in common. I do believe, though, you can harness this permaculture toolkit to design this magical process of accumulating prosperity into your life and community. From my perspective, we need a lot more people to step up to money to steward it in a more environmentally and socially conscious ways. The more we in permaculture and other regenerative spaces do this, the more money we can divert from the harmful extractive economy and redirect into regenerative assets and investments, including our communities. If you really want to do that, though, a great place to start is by creating your own regenerative personal economy. And that's something you can learn by watching this video next. And of course, if you want to get my Permaculture and Money ebook, the link, like I mentioned, is in the description below. For all of you that made it this far in the video, thanks for joining me and being part of this regenerative revolution. I'll see you in the next video.